There are many dungeon masters in the tabletop role-playing game hobby that take it easy on their players. They might fudge a dice roll, or they simply won't punish the character when something bad happens. In many cases, their players will feel that they are not pulling the trigger. This can cause players to lose trust in their dungeon master and respect, meaning players that feel that you're not pulling that trigger might not take you serious. But it can also cause bad gaming habits for the players. A great example of this is when it comes to time pressure challenges. What do I mean by time pressure challenges? Well, there's combat, but there's also situations where the trap is about to go off and you only got so much time to figure out what's going on. Or being in important social situations where the timing of the response is important. Because that dungeon master doesn't pull the trigger, when those challenges come, many players won't be ready in those games. And it's a habit because when it happens, the dungeon master doesn't pull the trigger. What do I mean? That dungeon master allows the players to fumble around and take too much time. They allow them to make the mistake and they don't correct it and they give no punishment. What should that dungeon master do? When it comes to the player and they're not ready, they got 10 seconds to respond with something. If nothing solid is coming out of their mouth within 10 seconds, it is time to tell them that their character stands there looking stupid and it's time to move on. I want to be clear to any dungeon master. Let me be clear. By doing that, you are not being mean to any player. You are doing your job as a dungeon master. That's it. In those situations, their time is limited. Of course, if they start off with a solid explanation, they can go longer than 10 seconds telling you what's up. But if they're fumbling around and it hits 10 seconds and there's nothing solid coming from them, don't let them fumble for longer. It's time to move on. When that player has that experience and the other players see what happens, they will realize that if they don't take your game serious and they're not ready with the time they have before it gets to them and they don't prepare for what they hear as it's coming around to their turn, they are going to pay a price for that, so they should be ready, and that's what they'll learn. Don't hold back on doing your job. If a character dies in the game, they die. If this happens, it happens, and you have to do your job. The job here is understanding that characters have a time limit, and that's the purpose in those situations. Maybe a merchant is trying to swindle the characters. The merchant is going to lay information on the characters' laps, hoping that if he rushes the characters to get a reaction, that they're going to say yes to whatever he's asking for. At that point, it's time to remind your players that time is still going to be running, even if they say nothing. And if they take too long to speak, the merchant is going to turn away, give up on whatever deal, and take what they have with them. You can't create a challenge like that. You can't create a scene like that that has any credibility if the players are not rushed on some level to respond. Here's what I promise you, Dungeon Master. If your players are playing better, they will have more fun. It's a benefit to them. You, by putting in proper limits and punishing people when they make mistakes, you create good habits that turn your players into better players. That means they enjoy the game more, and you will enjoy the game more because the players are playing your game properly. And you'll be able to feed off that energy when they're playing better and having more fun. Stop looking at that part of the game where you have to enforce a character death or a punishment on time limit as a negative thing. It is just you doing your job. And the results are good. They're not bad. Just don't get emotional. Don't make it personal. Okay, there is some food for thought. For now, take care.